Welcome to day two of our free coaching series on the Thrive Budget, Adulting Life Hacks that Lead to a Richer Life. And I'm your hostess, Natalie Pace. You can reach me at nataliepace.com and info@nataliepace.com. So today we're going to talk about the first big ticket bill, which many of us are getting buried alive in, and that's housing. So how do you fix housing if you're spending 30 to 50% of your income or more? I mean, rent has gone crazy, home prices are high, and interest rates are high. So how are you supposed to fix that? Well, you obviously have to think outside the box because waiting for politicians to fix this isn't a very, it can be a very frustrating. And in the meantime, and look, I'm not saying I'm smiling, I'm not ridiculing where you are. This is dire, it's horrible, but there are solutions. You just have to be brave about embracing them. Again, I've been there many times in my life because I started out in a very modest, income. My father was a copper miner. So I had to go through college on, grants and scholarships and loans, which, I graduated from USC with less than $10,000 in debt. And it wasn't because it was that much cheaper back in the day. That was still about a $250,000 degree back then. So, you can find ways, and I'm not saying, look, everybody, college isn't for everybody, scholarships are not going to happen for everybody, that sort of thing. But there are ways that you can start hacking the system a bit. And let's talk first about how you can hack the housing situation. So I want to take you into a couple of real life scenarios that really happen to folks. So when I was a young single mom, I moved in with another single mom and her two kids. We got a bigger place. We saved about 35%, right? Now that's a lot. The interesting thing is I was just looking at, there was this, these millennials got together and they bought a high school and they turned it into apartments. And the one bedrooms are renting for $1,400 a month and the two bedrooms are renting for $1,600 a month. The bigger that you get, the better the bargain is if you're willing to share. Now, that was my solution as a young single mom. There are other solutions out there. Now, also, I'm going to give you a couple of other scenarios that happened, okay? Buying high in real estate can be the worst decision that anybody ever makes, because if the value happens to drop below your mortgage, then you're stuck there unless you can convince the bank to do a short sale. And your FICO score plunges. You feel really stranglehold, and that can happen and last for a decade or longer. 20 million homes were lost in the right before and in the wake of the Great Recession. 20 million. That's a lot of people who had a very bad decade. So if you're one of those people that are regretting a purchase that you recently made, then you might want to reach out to me, attend our retreat, read. There's a real estate section in the ABCs of Money as well. And if you're one of those people that are making the landlord rich, then maybe it's time to start thinking about intergenerational housing. Maybe you should be making your parents rich. Now, you might say, I don't want to live with my parents. That's embarrassing, or whatever excuse that you come up with. Well, let's take a look at a few other slides here. So this is me when I was first out of high school, right into college, playing in a band, and I was studying classical piano at the University of at Arizona State University. Now, a friend of mine had bought the house and rented out 3 bedrooms. She earned income and played music for fun, and the rest of us rented from her. Here's another scenario. So education is the highest correlating factor with income. We'll talk about that in a moment. But in medical school, one resident's landlord was her best friend. Guess who came out with $250,000 in debt and who is free and clear? Even in college, you're paying a lot for housing. So, should you be an au pair? Should you be a nanny? Should you actually do the first 2 years living at your folks' home, right? So, these are all things to think about. I graduated from USC, summa cum laude, but I started out at SMC because I had that ASU little stint as a music major. And then some years between, they force you to go back to community college. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because at that point, I got the 4.0 average, I got all the scholarships. And junior college is much more affordable. And a lot of times the classrooms are smaller, and sometimes it's the same professors. The professors I learned from at SMC were teaching at UCLA too. So again, the point of this was more about the housing portion of it. Think about housing, whether you are, a young adult, a Henry, a DINK, or a student. Housing is a big deal. And I also want to remind you that royals don't buy their own homes, right? So we have sort of unrealistic expectations and unrealistic and demeaning ways that we talk about people that solve the problem of housing through intergenerational. But there are many, many ways that people, when they fix this one, it's like all of a sudden you get wings. If you want to be light, if you want to fly, you got to lighten your load, right? There was one person, she had recently retired, a big job, she had a beautiful home, and it was too big for her. And it was, she wasn't going to realistically be able to afford it and travel with, her retirement income. She decided to rent out the big house, downsize into a smaller place, and she travels 6 months out of the year. So again, if you honestly, even today, the reason that I'm able to do the Earth Gratitude Project and nataliepace.com, so financial literacy sustainability, is because I keep my housing costs as low as possible. That's a big deal. Also, my transportation, all of these things that I'm telling you, I do. And I live a very rich life, and I don't make the landlord rich and all these other people rich at my own expense. So in conclusion here, what I would like for you to think about is take away those brain barriers that tell you you have to keep the grind going where you are in your current living situation. I'm not telling you to live with somebody that you can't live with. You definitely want your home to be a sanctuary. But living by yourself, especially if it's an apartment that's a studio or one bedroom, is that really a sanctuary, right? Especially if all your money is going there. Could you actually share a bigger place? Usually they're much bigger, much more space, and have more money to actually do the things that would set you up for discovering your passion or discovering your career path, your next career move. When you're oppressed and just kind of grinding it out, it's hard to think about things that would make your life better and your career better. So if we can figure out how to lighten our load, and housing is a big deal, right? Like if $2,000 a month is, what is that, $24,000 a year. And in a big city, that would be a cheap rent. I heard somebody here in New York City was saying they could rent out their place for $12,000. Like, to who, right? And who would want to do that? So I want you to break free from all of the conventional chatter and noise and think about how you might spend or save at least 35% on housing by getting creative. This is going to start changing things, but there are other things that will change as well, change our lives as well. So keep with me here. Remember your resource, the ABCs of Money. By the way, be sure you're getting the 5th edition. So always go to nataliepace.com and click on the book cover there so that you're getting the most recent update. The economy changes all the time, so I have to update it every few years. All right, nataliepace.com, info@nataliepace.com, YouTube, /nataliepace.com. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow for more big ticket solutions and adulting life hacks.